Will getting stronger make you faster? And this is one of those things where everyone wants to hear a binary yes or no, and it's always it depends thing. How strong are you currently? Now, the big answer that will apply to the majority of people is just simply yes. The majority of people are not very strong, and so getting stronger will make them faster. That's why you hear me say things like just get stronger, because oftentimes, we have athletes who have never been through a serious strength program. They don't have very much strength, but they also don't have much speed. So they need both. And so getting stronger will make them faster. However, this is one of those things where there's like a law of diminishing returns on this as well. So I believe it was Greg Hoff that did a research study that found that basically, everything up to a double body weight squat, seems to transfer it. It makes you faster and more powerful, right? Once you get past the double body weight squat, it's not going to make you any faster. It's diminishing returns at that point. Matt Wenning pointed out that guys that squat 3 times body weight actually are running slower, because the amount of quad development that you have to squat 3 times body weight, at that point it starts to offset other muscles, and so guys actually end up running slower. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. There's obviously a limit to how big you want to be and how much mass you want to have if you want to run fast. You can't find anyone over 200 pounds that has ever run a 4-minute mile. Doesn't exist. I think there was a decathlete, John Fath, who weighed 190 pounds and ran a 4-minute mile. And I think that makes him actually the heaviest person to ever run a 4-minute mile. Okay, so we look at this and we recognize that there's probably a strength to weight ratio. Because if it just came down to strength, guys that have a 1,000-pound deadlift would be running, the 100 meters in 9 seconds. And that doesn't happen. Also, you'll notice that, 100-meter runners tend to be, somewhere around 185 pounds oftentimes. I'm just throwing that number out because I just looked at the top people across the board, and they're somewhere in the, 180s. But you don't see guys that are really 225, 235, right? So there's a limit on how much mass you want to have as well. It's about optimizing your strength to weight ratio, right? And the other thing I'll point out here is that people who are fast, like really explosive, fast runners, tend to be strong. So it's like one of those funny things that Dan John pointed out to me once. You can almost guarantee that the guy who can do a ton of pull-ups is going to be a fast runner. Why? Because he has a good strength to weight ratio. So he's relatively strong compared to his body weight. Hence why he can do pull-ups very well, but he tends to also be a good runner. Now, this isn't perfect. You could have someone who's a rock climber and, they're not a great runner. But in general, if you just took people and just had them do pull-ups, they'd probably run well if they can do a lot of pull-ups. So, will getting stronger make you faster? Yes, if you have a deficiency of strength. But if you're already running very fast, let's say you have a 20-second 200 meters, and you already squat somewhere around, 1.8 to 2 times body weight, you chasing more strength is probably not going to make you much faster. It's just, we have so many different attributes that we need to develop in order to run fast and be fast. And so getting stronger at some point doesn't transfer. Now, what I'll point out to you is that something from my own personal experience, having run track. I ran the 200, and also I played hockey, and very consistently I was the fastest player on my team. This does not mean shit, by the way. Just because you can skate really fast doesn't mean that you're great at hockey, but boy, I could skate. It doesn't help whenever you don't even weigh 100 pounds, though, does it? Because, whenever you're 90 pounds going into the corner with a guy who's 235 pounds, guess who wins that battle? I don't care how fast you are. Sometimes you just have to fight things out in the corner, and your speed doesn't matter. Just like trying to sit in front of the net. Go to the slot. Yeah, you go to the fucking slot. 235-pound defenseman just hammers the shit out of you because you try to park your ass there because your coach told you to park your ass there. So anyways, I was not doing any strength training at all. None. I mean, not in terms of lifting weights. At that time, and I've discussed this in the past, I started doing body weight training as a very young child. I mean, I was like 3, and I remember doing push-up contests with my dad. And, my dad always would do push-ups and pull-ups and all kinds of stuff like that. He ran, he rode his bike, he was very active. But my dad was not like a hardcore weightlifter. Like, we didn't do deadlifts and like squats and bench press, right? So, I get to high school and I'm playing high school hockey and I'm fast. I also ran track, so that probably matters too. Yeah, I can run really fast. I can skate really fast. And all my training, and not that I didn't train, I did train, but all my training was like push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, squats, lunges. It's all body weight stuff. So like, did I have relative strength? Sure, because I could move my body through space. Like, I could do single leg squats. I could stand on one leg and do a squat, okay? But like, what is that doing for you in terms of like maximal power or maximal strength? It's not the same thing. I don't even care if you're doing, shrimp squats. Like these things have a limit. Jump squats, I did a lot of jumping, a lot of bounding. Those things make you faster. And I can guarantee to you they didn't increase my 1 rep max squat. So now we have to talk about strength in other terms, right? Like, what's your strength? Well, like, what are we measuring as strength? Are we measuring strength in terms of like a 1 rep max deadlift? Or are we measuring strength in terms of like your vertical jump, which would be power output really? What's your strength in terms of your ability to produce force and push a sled or drag a sled? These are all things that are variables. And so, like I said at the beginning, there's not really a straightforward answer here. But I'll say that for the majority of people, yes, getting stronger will make them faster. And that's one of those things where like it does to a certain point, and then it's like, and then there's no more to be gained from it. It's kind of like if you were learning an instrument, practicing your scales. Practicing your scales is really important. You should know all of your scales. You should know the modes. At some point though, like practicing your scales even more, practicing the modes even more, isn't going to magically make you a better piano player. I don't care how fast you can play your scales or how well you play your scales. Like, at some point you have to sit down and actually play music. So like, this is something different, right? We have to build our sight read, and this is a different skill. So I look at it in a similar vein here of like, yep, strength work is good, it's foundational. At what point though can we accept that now we just kind of have to maintain strength, but like any additional strength is not going to suddenly make a huge difference? If you currently squat less than body weight, let's say you weigh 150 pounds and you can only squat 95, sure, getting your back squat up to 185 is probably going to make you faster. But if you weigh 150 pounds and you currently squat 315, getting your squat to 365 probably isn't going to make a huge difference in your ability to produce speed coming out of the blocks, all the stuff like that. It's not going to make a difference in your sport. Like, you're not going to become suddenly faster and more explosive whenever you already have a very good strength to weight ratio. So it's just one of those things. You have to start looking at the big picture, and it's like, well, will getting stronger make you faster? And it's like, for the majority of people, yes. But for the people who are already fast and already strong, no. Like, pushing your deadlift up to a 4 times body weight deadlift and your squat to a 3 times body weight squat isn't going to make a huge difference. It's like this. Look at your bench press. If you currently can bench press, say you weigh 150 pounds, we'll just go back to that number, and you can bench press 225 for a set of 10. Wow, that's really good. Do you think it's going to make a huge difference in your running if you get yourself to the point where now you can bench 275 for a set of 10 or 315 for a set of 10? Which would be insane, by the way. If you weigh 150 pounds, bench pressing 315 for a set of 10, that'd be phenomenal. But Like, is that going to make you run faster? You know? So, like, everything's very dependent. You have to look at what variables are there. It's kind of like when you look at people squatting. And it's like, well, how much more hamstring work does this person need? Or how much more lower back work does this person need? Or how much more quad work does this person need? Like, where are you missing? You know, it's kind of like with the bench press. More tricep work will help with the bench press to a certain point. And then at some point, like, your triceps are no longer the limiting factor. You got to figure out what the limiting factor is at that point. So, you know, if you're currently running 200, you know, and you can run the 200 in 22 seconds, which is still a very good time in my opinion, what's going to get you to 21 seconds? Maybe it's strength. Like, maybe if you're incredibly weak, like, maybe strength will help you, but more likely at that point, because you're fast enough, you probably have strength. So what's going to make the difference at that point? Probably looking at something else, like your front side mechanics or your back side mechanics, you know, looking at some other variable. It's going to be something different. Your stride length, your stride rate. This is where things break down. You know, the further we go up that pole and we get to this elite level of performance, you know, if Usain Bolt could power clean 225, getting his power clean to 275, it wasn't going to make him any faster. There's some other variable that needs to be addressed. It's always about finding that weak link, which is why, like, actually, oddly enough, Louis was like ahead of the curve when it comes to powerlifting. You got to figure out what the weak body part is and then just train the shit out of that. And then whenever that's no longer the weak body part, you figure out what the next one is. It's the same thing with sprinting. You know, if you're weak because of this, then you fix that. And if you're slow because of this, then you fix that. Every time that we assess an athlete, we're constantly trying to figure out what is the weakest point here and then improving that. And, you know, as you improve one thing, oftentimes something else falls by the wayside, or something else stayed static and now you've surpassed that and that's become the new weak link, you know? So I know that this is a very long explanation because it isn't a simple yes or no, and everyone always wants a simple yes or no. So what I'll say is that, you know, will getting stronger make you faster? For the majority of people, probably yes. But if you're already pretty fast, if you're already pretty strong, no, additional strength isn't going to somehow make you any faster. At that point, you have to start looking at other attributes.